Senator Kennedy to kick us off.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Judge Dudick, did I say that name right?
That's correct, Senator.
All right, what's the warrant requirement?
Well, before the court would issue a warrant, you have to assess to make sure that there's probable cause to either search the place.
When's a warrant required?
Excuse me?
When is a warrant required?
The general rule is a warrant is required anytime that the government wants to search a person, place, or thing.
Could you speak into the mic?
Welcome back to the Constitution Corner, where we don't just read the Constitution, we defend it. If you love liberty, support the rule of law, and still believe in common sense and the founding principles of this great nation, then hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an update. Now let's dive into something that ought to shake every American to the core.
Oh, I'm sorry, Senator. Yeah, I said the backdrop rule is that a warrant is required anytime the government wants to search a person, place, or a thing.
And to arrest you, right?
There are some exceptions to that, but generally, yes.
Okay. And there are exceptions to the warrant requirement for searching and arresting people, are they not? Are there not?
Yes, Senator, there are.
Okay. Suppose the Florida Supreme Court ruled that here in Florida, we're not going to recognize any exceptions to the warrant requirement. You have to have a warrant to search someone, and you have to have a warrant to arrest someone. Mm-hmm. No exceptions. Can the Florida Supreme Court do that?
Well, Senator, under the Supremacy Clause, they'd be bound by what the Fourth Amendment dictates. Of course, they're free to make their own requirements as it.
What if the Florida Supreme Court did it under the Florida Constitution and not the federal Constitution?
Well, they would still, Senator, have to apply with what the federal Constitution said.
No, they wouldn't.
Under the Supremacy Clause.
Do you know what adequate and independent state grounds means?
Sure. Of course, I would understand that they could have independent and adequate state grounds for state law, but
No, they don't. As long as you don't take away rights, but add to them, a state can do whatever it wants to under its state constitution, can it?
Yes, sir. Yes,
But
Senator.
that's not what you just said. You think the Supremacy Clause applies? The Supremacy Clause applies.
Well,
You want to change your answer?
Senator, I would like to change my answer to the extent that I agree with you that the Florida legislature or Florida could do exactly what you said. I meant in my statement is that.
Trust me, it can. Judge Pruitt, I'm sorry, I can't see that far.
It's Judge Pratt, Senator. Yes.
Judge Pratt, I apologize. I can't see that far. Can a state legislature pass a law that discriminates against a group of people over another group of people for inferior treatment?
Well, Senator, the federal Constitution and the state Constitution both contain protections against various forms of discrimination.
But can a state legislature say we're going to treat this group of people differently than another group of people?
So I think, Senator, an example where a legislature
could. Tell me first if a state can do that.
Yes, a state can, for example, require a driving age which discriminates on the basis of age. To say, for example,
when can a state legislature not do that?
When it's seeking to do so under a basis that is protected under the state or federal Constitution.
Okay, good. Judge, tell me about the privileges and immunities clause.
The Privileges and Immunities Clause, there's a privileges and immunities and a privileges or immunities clause. There's one of each. One of them relates.
Privileges and is what I'm asking you about.
I believe you're referring to what came through in one of the Reconstruction amendments and discussing the fact that that the privileges and immunities of citizenship would be extended
Well,
under those.
first, what article is it in?
I believe it's in the 13th Amendment.
No, fourth. Article 4. What does it do?
Senator, you have pinpointed a question that in my 9 years as a judge, in my decade of private practice before this, my 2 years as a law clerk, my 2 years on law review in law school, including a year as editor-in-chief, didn't ever come up.
You tell me you don't know?
So it's an interesting question.
Yes,
and
ma'am. I know it's interesting. That's why I ask it.
Yes,
but you don't know the answer. Just tell me. I got a lot of ground to cover here.
I would be very happy to research it.
Okay. Do you know what the privileges or immunities clause is?
With respect to my answer would be the same on that.
You don't know you don't know it either.
Well, with respect to the privileges and immunities of citizenship, my recollection is that
privileges are immunities.
Yes, my recollection is that was discussed in one of the Reconstruction amendments.
Which one do you know?
I believe it was the 13th to the 14th.
Okay. All right, Judge. What's Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of '64 do? Ma'am?
Which judge?
This judge down here on the far end.
Artau?
I can't see that far.
Okay, just making sure, because there's 4 judges there. Judge Artau, I'm going to let you answer that briefly.
Hey, I want to reclaim my time, Mr. Chairman.
You can
Madam
answer
Chairman.
that briefly.
Judge, what's Title VI of the Civil Rights Act do?
I believe that ensures that people are treated equally in any places that they would be, that they would not be discriminated against.
In all cases?
Refresh my recollection as to what you were referring to,
I'm
Senator.
referring to Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which you're going to see every other Thursday as a federal judge.
So I believe that's under the Commerce Clause. They wanted to make sure that there was not any discrimination going on with regard to race, and that was addressing it.
It prohibits discriminating on the basis of race or color or national origin. Under what circumstance? Do you know the answer?
Under any circumstances where you're providing services to people.
No, it's only if you're getting federal money. You need to brush up on that one. I'm way over my time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy.
So, Senator John Kennedy, a man I deeply respect, just sat through a judicial nomination hearing that might go down in history as one of the most embarrassing displays of constitutional ignorance from would-be federal judges. This isn't just a few flubbed answers. What we just watched was a crash course in how far we've drifted from constitutional literacy in our judicial system. I'm talking about judges who are supposed to interpret and uphold the Constitution, and yet they don't even know basic components of it. Let's start with the basics, the Fourth Amendment. This amendment protects us from unreasonable searches and seizures. It's literally what stops the government from barging into your home, your business, your car without a warrant or probable cause. And yet, when Senator Kennedy asked Judge Dudick a very straightforward question, what's the warrant requirement? She stumbled, hesitated, and could barely articulate that it involves probable cause. Then she was asked when a warrant is required. Again, hesitation, fumbling. Folks, this isn't rocket science. It's Constitutional Law 101. Then it got worse. Kennedy walks her through a hypothetical. What if a state like Florida required a warrant every single time with no exceptions? That's not unconstitutional, that's giving more protection to the people, not less. But what does the judge say? That the Supremacy Clause means the state can't do that. Flat wrong. Kennedy corrects her. And to her credit, she walked it back. But should we really be confirming judges who get basic federalism wrong? Who don't understand the difference between federal floor protections and state ceilings on liberty? Then comes the train wreck with Judge Pratt and the Privileges and Immunities Clause. This clause, Article 4, protects citizens traveling between states and prevents states from discriminating against out-of-staters. When Kennedy asked her what it does, she guessed it was the 13th Amendment. Think about that. A federal judge not knowing Article 4 from the 13th Amendment? That's like not knowing the difference between George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. It gets worse. Another judge was asked about Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, a major federal law that bans discrimination in programs receiving federal money. Every judge, every American law student, frankly, should know this. And yet, we watched another nominee completely fail to explain that it applies specifically to federally funded programs. Instead, she just rambled. Now, I don't say this to mock these nominees. But here's the truth. Ignorance of the law from the bench is not just unacceptable, it's dangerous. We live in a republic, not a technocracy. Judges are not supposed to rule based on feelings, trends, or political pressure. They're supposed to rule based on the Constitution, statutory law, and precedent. And if they don't know that Constitution like the back of their hand, they have no business sitting on the bench. These are lifetime appointments. Once confirmed, these judges are nearly untouchable. They'll be ruling on cases that affect our businesses, our schools, our churches, our kids, our freedom. And they don't even know basic constitutional law? Here's my call to action. If you're a patriot who still believes this country is worth defending, then we need to start demanding more from our leaders. Not just our senators, but our judges, our schools, our universities. We need to get back to teaching the Constitution, respecting it, and applying it with boldness and clarity. And as for the Senate, I say this: start rejecting nominees who don't know the document they are sworn to uphold. We need judges who love America, respect the Constitution, and understand the values that make this country the greatest in the world. We are the Constitution Corner, where Americans' root guides its future. Until next time, stand strong, speak truth, and may God bless the United States of America.